What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the Ally 400 at Nashville Super Speedway for Sunday, June 30th around 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Fresh off of last week's race that got saved by the rain, and honestly, I say just hose down every single short flat track we have because the weather saved that race. I thought it was very entertaining afterwards, and the guy that probably should have won the race ended up winning the race, so I think everybody was happy. But anyway, if this happens to be your first time here, what's up? My name is Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Videos on Saturdays, live streams on Sundays. Playing for around 1 p.m. Eastern, so come in, say hi, always a good time. And really quick, I gave a shout out to last week's comment contest winner, Marcus Madison. 156 laps led for Christopher Bell. I think he finished with 149, so only a few off. Pretty good for a 300 lap race. Shout out to you. If you want to enter this week's contest, all you gotta do is comment down below who you think is going to lead the most laps and how many, and the winner will get a cash prize. If you do end up enjoying today's video, make sure you have a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's dive right into it. All right, let's talk some strategy here for Nashville. Kind of a unique track. It's Darlington size, 1.3 miles in length. And it's also a concrete surface, and we don't have any concrete surfaces in the NASCAR Cup Series, just Bristol, Dover, and Nashville. I do think Dover is a pretty good comparable track to Nashville, and I'm also looking at the intermediates that we have visited this year, including all the 1.5s and Darlington, Dover. I think all make some sense. But since this track is a bit unique, just looking at the drivers that perform the best in practice and qualifying will certainly tell a good story, and we look at some of the green flag speed numbers as well. And I'm going to show you guys a preview of some of the stuff that I have on the NASCAR model here. If any of you are interested, you know where to find it. But it's my green flag speed numbers here, which are always pretty fun to look at least. It just gives you an idea of who should have some speed heading into the weekend. But the things I want to look at for Nashville, I don't really care about short flats or road courses, but intermediates overall in the next gen era, which dates back to 2022. Some of those numbers can be a bit older, and that's why I kind of get a little bit of a smaller sample size as we move to the right here. But no surprise, you're pretty much going to see Hamlin and Larson up top for every single category here, maybe even every single category. If you look at the 2024 overall, once again, it's Larson, Hamlin. We go to the similar tracks, which I just talked about for Nashville, at least in my opinion, you're going to see Hamlin, Larson once again. And if we look at this tire combination, which on the top of my head, I forget exactly all the tracks that I have, but it's compiled here. You're going to have, once again, Hamlin and Larson. And then if we look at the overall, how I want to weight this, Hamlin and Larson. So do not be surprised if they are fast in practice and qualifying. Also the two favorites to win this race, so we'll see what happens. All right, now as far as roster construction is concerned for this race, still a lot of laps, 300, which is about the same as we had last weekend, and we were looking at 2 to 3 down builds at New Hampshire, and we're looking at that for this weekend at Nashville. And looking at the price tags, that should not be that hard to do this weekend. Kyle Larson's only $10,500, Hamlin $10,300, and we only have 3 drivers total in the 10K range. So I don't think salary should be much of an issue if you're trying to jam in multiple studs this weekend. That's just me talking before practicing qualifying. Maybe that's not going to be the case, but I don't see how it's not going to be. So at least building might be a little bit easier up top. And finally, moving on to the driver-by-driver breakdown, I do have to mention one thing first, and that is, of course, if you want to join the best NASCAR DFS community out there, link is down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. You can join the Discord, which is always a good time, and you get access to my entire NASCAR model, which goes over my projections for both sites, cheat sheets, optimizer, ownership projections, my entire sim scores, which goes over leverage and just all the projections that I've detailed out, whether it's laps led, projected finish, all that fun stuff. And the betting dashboard, I do my article each and every single week. And I do cover trucks and Xfinity for projections only, and in the optimizer. And I cover MLB each and every single day in a similar fashion if that is something you're interested in. So if you want to check it out, you know where to find it. Link will be found down below. And don't forget to check out Stochastic with their NASCAR Sims tool. They did launch it earlier this season. You can use their pre-contest simulator to see which drivers offer the best return on investment and which allows to stack up the best in tournaments. And the best thing about it is this is before the race happens. So help give yourself an edge on Sundays. You can use the link down below in the description and make sure you tell them I sent you. All right, it's the next day and practice and qualifying just now ended. We didn't have any weather concerns. It was just really hot on the track, which is going to be hot once again on Sundays. So I don't really have any concerns about that. There's a chance of storms tomorrow. It's storming right now. Don't know if you can hear the thunder, but I apologize if you do. Same as last weekend, actually. But if we're looking at the practice data, this is something important to make note of, is that it's pretty skewed towards Group A. As you can see, they dominate pretty much the top half of the leaderboard here once I average everything out. So Group B, they're going to be the guys in just plain white here. So yes, Martin Truex Jr. was pretty mid-pack here, but he was the best overall of Group B. Looking at the overall averages, Corey Heim, Keselowski, Bell, Hamlin. So I don't think these guys suck. It's just a matter of the track conditions and when they went out. And if we're looking at the overall lap data here, which includes all of the laps that they ran through practice, and I tried my best to delete all the noisy bad laps. Like if someone's running a 31, then they throw out a 34, probably just best to delete that because they're not going to, it's not a true resemblance of their speed. So you can see, once again, it's pretty much dominated from the yellow drivers who were in Group A, but Keselowski, Truex, Hamlin, Bell, Klein, pretty much the same guys over here are the ones that are the fastest in the next group. So that's just something to keep note of this weekend. But let's start up top in the 5-figure range. And no surprise, if you didn't skip over that part when we were talking strategy, looking at green flag speed, who have been the fastest drivers every single time pretty much at these similar tracks, it's Kyle Larson and it's Denny Hamlin. And what do you know, Denny Hamlin grabbed the pole. He's one of the fastest drivers in Group B, probably the fastest driver overall. So definitely are liking both of these guys quite a bit here. Christopher Bell is probably going to be the one I have the least amount of interest in. And I'm not saying he's a bad play. I think he'll be fine. But I don't think I'm going to be able to roster 3 of these drivers. And it's just really easy for me to play Hamlin on the pole. He's got the best track position. He's going to have clean air. I think he can certainly dominate. And I do want to mention that I think Denny Hamlin should be announced as the new Concrete King. I used to be Chase Elliott for me. But the past 3 concrete races have been won by Denny Hamlin. He won Bristol last year in the fall. He won the Dover race earlier this year, and then he won the Bristol tire race as well. So that's 3 in a row. We're going for 4 here. He's on the pole. There's a decent chance he can do it. And I do have a bet on him this weekend at plus 650 to win. These are the old odds. Grabbed it on FanDuel. He's 550 on DraftKings or whatever it was. I assume that's going to go down. But I love Denny Hamlin. He is your starting point for cash games and tournaments. Do not be scared of these practice times. And honestly, I'm kind of glad that practice is pretty skewed, because if people are looking at practice, they're like, and they want to skip over Denny Hamlin because of that, be my guest, he should be very strong. And then if you want to pair him with Kyle Larson, I have no problem with that whatsoever. These are definitely the top 2 dominators. He was very fast overall. He's very good at similar tracks. No reason to believe he's not going to be good. So Hamlin, Larson, going to have a ton of it this weekend. And Bell, he is the pivot off of those drivers, but I'll be honest, I just don't think I'm going to be able to get to a lot of him. I do think he'll be fast though. So, I mean, don't X him out of the player pool, but my preference is definitely the 2 above. And at these price points, very easy to fit both in. Dropping down to the 9K range, Martin Truex Jr., he's going to be starting in 17th, $9,800. Bad luck bites him every single week. I feel like the past month now, he's been in a position where he could either finish top 5 or he has the best car. He had the best car last week. He was better than Bell at certain portions of the race, but then a long pit stop, and then it's just, he crawled his way back to top 10, but been a lot of bad luck here from Martin Truex Jr. But he had one of the better cars in Group B, so don't be too afraid of these practice times. Starting in 17th, he's definitely a fine option. Like, don't play every lineup with Larson Hamlin. If we want to go with Larson Truex, a Hamlin Truex lineup, I have no problem with that. So I think Truex is certainly fine here. If we're looking at his numbers at similar tracks, looks pretty good. No issues with Truex, and he has ran well here in the past. Chase Elliott, $9,700, starting in 13th. Like I said, he used to be the Concrete King. I think Denny Hamlin's taken that over here. As consistent as he has been this year, I do think he's a fine play. I want to say he was in Group B. Yeah, he was. So the slower practice times aren't as much of a concern. He was kind of right in that Hamlin, Bell, Corey Heim pack, which, shout out to Corey Heim. I mean, obviously not a regular in the Cup Series. Looks like he has some speed this week. So Elliott's kind of like the slightly worse version of Truex, in my opinion, but still in the player pool. William Byron, starting in 7th at $9,500. I also believe he was in that second group. Yeah, he was, but obviously was a tick below the rest of this bunch. And if you're looking over here, yeah, tick below that. So I don't really see him being a top level priority dominator for me. He's definitely in that 2nd to 3rd tier. So I don't think I'll be able to get to too much Byron, because I feel like Elliott and Truex can be similar plays at the end of the day, finishing position wise, but they're starting double the spots further back. Ryan Blaney, $9,300, starting in 18th. If you're just looking at the practice times, obviously he looked fantastic, but keep in mind he was in Group A, so those numbers are probably a bit inflated. And if we're looking at similar tracks for Ryan Blaney, doesn't look amazing. 16 average running position, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and not really much of a dominator. So it doesn't really scream priority to me, especially when you have Ross Chastain right below him. Starts 2 spots further back. Also showed a lot of speed in practice. He was in that first group, so we got to keep that in mind. But he has absolutely crushed Nashville. We ran 3 races here. I believe he's finished in the top 5 every single time, with the P1 last year and then also a P2. Then I believe he finished in the top 5 when he was in the 42 car, which is even more impressive. So I think Ross Chastain is a perfectly fine play here in 20th. I know the practice times are obviously a bit inflated, but based off the track history, I still think Ross should be good. And he's always been really good at these intermediate type tracks. If you're looking at the numbers here, 3 top 5s, has a win. Overall, really strong numbers. And if you look at a 31 race sample size in the next gen era, Ross has some of the best overall numbers. I know Trackhouse hasn't been amazing this year, but this has been a very good track for Chastain. And I think the price seems a bit low. Dropping out of the 8K range, Tyler Reddick, starting in 6th here. I am not really sure what I want to do with Tyler Reddick. He's in a very weird spot. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. I want to say he was in the first group, which he was, and he had some pretty slow overall times. Obviously, in qualifying, he was good. So I don't think he's going to suck during this race, but I think it's more than likely he doesn't dominate, get up front, and he probably falls back a little bit. So I'm not going to have a lot of Tyler Reddick, just in a weird spot. If you're starting a little bit further back, I think I'd be more interested. Joey Logano, he's like in that William Byron range where he's a second to third tier dominator this weekend. So you throw in the dominator pool, but you're not really expecting him to dominate, if that makes any sense. Joey Logano, $8,600. He was starting in 26. Was decent in practice. All the Penske cars were in Group A. So, yes, Blaney was in Group A, so I don't think he's going to be the first or second best car in this race, but he was still faster than his teammate, Joey Logano. So it's probably an indicator that Blaney's going to have more speed. But the thing is, Joey starts in 26 compared to 18 for Blaney. It's also a little bit cheaper. Like if you're on FanDuel, $9,500 starting in 26. If he gets to 12, I mean, you're fine with that. DraftKings, that's fine as well, as long as you can nail your top two dominators. And the thing is, we're not paying $11-some thousand for Doms this week. So if you do go with like the Denny Hamlin route or the Kyle Larson route, or both together, you're not eating up that much salary this weekend. So it's probably not that hard to get into this 8K range. So I am all right with Joey, obviously. I mean, he's a fine cash play. For looking at similar tracks, A-race sample size, it hasn't been amazing for him. Not really, but typically in the top 15, always in the top 20, average running position around 15th, average around 16th. That's a fine day at that price point. Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, we'll kind of talk about them together because the two RFK cars tend to run pretty similar. But whatever it was last week, Brad Keselowski was just out to lunch, sucked all day, wasn't good on the slicks, wasn't good on the wets, whatever it was. He was absolutely terrible, which was really weird because he has been incredible at the short flat tracks all season long, then just ends up throwing a dumpster fire type race. But it looks like RFK should have some speed. They're probably going to run pretty similar to where they start, so their tournament plays only for me. I wouldn't get there in cash games. Ty Gibbs starting in 8th. He's $8,400. Decent chance he runs away with the Xfinity race. It has not started yet, but he was super fast. Starts in the pole. Wouldn't be surprised. Maybe that bumps his ownership up a little bit. But starting in 8th here, you're getting a JGR car, $8,400. And in this similar data set here, average running position of around 9.3, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. I think Ty Gibbs is certainly in play. So I'll be playing him here at $8,400 in tournaments. On either site, looks fine to me. Kyle Busch, like I said last week, yes, he's starting in the back. He is cheap. He's going to be popular, but you got to be careful with him at the short flat tracks. Now, this is not a short flat track. Pretty unique, but he still just looks extremely slow. Now, I'm going to hope with those practice speeds he was in the second group, because if not, he was in the second group, so that saves him a little bit, but I still don't think he's going to have a ton of speed. He was still pretty slow amongst the second group drivers. Now, if you're looking at his overall numbers in this data set, A-race sample size, right around 14, 15 place the majority of the time, does have 4 top 10s. So I'm definitely more inclined to want to play Kyle Busch this weekend because they just tend to have more speed at these track types. And over on FanDuel, it's $7,500. That is really cheap. So I do think Kyle Busch is in that cash game consideration. Again, I know it was awful last week, but this is a bit of a different circumstance compared to New Hampshire. Then Alex Bowman, $8,000. He'll be starting in 12th. I think it's likely he probably moves back. Practice around 14th and 13th. We're looking at practice. I believe, he was in the first group and one of the slower cars of the first group, so I don't think he's going to have a super impressive day. Dropping down to the 7K drivers, we have Bubba Wallace, $7,800. He was starting at 24th. Very fast overall speeds. He was in the first group, but he was still one of the faster cars of the first group, and Toyota looks like they have speed overall this weekend, so I think Bubba starting at 24th is firmly in play, whether it be cash games or tournaments. Josh Berry starting in second. It's a tough play because we know Josh Berry has the talent. He had a lot of speed in qualifying. Decent car overall in practice. Was in that first group though, so maybe these numbers are a bit inflated. But I think Berry could maybe hang around the top 5 early portions of the race, steal some fast laps. After that, it's a matter of having a clean race. So obviously tournament play only. And it's still French for me because I don't think starting at second he'll project that well. He's one of those guys you have to force into hand builds. Daniel Suarez starting in 31st. I could see people playing him just because of the PD, but I think he's going to be really slow. Chase Briscoe was absolutely awful in practice, 37th, 37th, and 30th. And if you're looking at similar tracks here for Briscoe, it has not been that great. Right around 20th place, and that's where he's starting. Don't really see much upside there. Noah Gragson, a little bit quicker in practice. I don't remember. He was in the first group, one of the slower cars here of the first group, so he'll probably run around where he starts, like 15th, 20th place, right around there. So again, not a lot of upside. Corey Hine, though. I'm a little bit nervous to like him too much because obviously he's not a Cup regular. He's absolutely elite in the Truck Series, but obviously this is a bit different. He's had some good runs in Xfinity as well, but starting in 29th. He was in that second group for practice, but I like how I was showing you guys, he actually had some of the better overall numbers. If you look at the averages here, Truex was first of this group. I mean, it depends what you're looking at. This is the lap by lap data, but it still kind of lines up to the overall averages. I'm a second behind Truex and right around with Keselowski and Bell and Hamlin. And if you're looking over here, he's behind Bell, Hamlin, Truex, and Keselowski, but he still looks pretty decent. And starting at 29th, and he's in a 2311 car this weekend, and we know they have speed. So I'm fine with Heim. If you don't play him in cash games, I think he makes sense. Like, I think he'll probably run better than Daniel Suarez this weekend just based off of pure speed alone. So I can get on the Heim train. Austin Cindric, $7,000. He's starting in 10th. Probably just going to have to fade that. I don't see a situation where he improves upon that outside of getting lucky with staying out long and there's a caution or some kind of weird pit strategy. So I'm probably going to have to pass on Cindric. I'll probably have to pass on McDowell starting in 14th. Decent practice numbers, but I can almost guarantee he was in the first group there, so those numbers are probably a bit inflated. Todd Gilliland, Eric Jones, they're going to offer you place differential upside. Practice for Jones, 25th, 21st. I'm pretty sure he was in that second group. Oh, he's in the first group. Okay, so that's even worse. So he's probably going to be very slow, which he showed that in qualifying. Todd Gilliland starting in 32nd. Really good speeds overall, but he was definitely in that first group right there, right, with Kyle Larson, AJ Allmendinger. But for where he is starting, I think he'll improve upon that. So I'm all right with it. I mean, nearly $7,000 though, but the front row cars have been decent. AJ Allmendinger won the Xfinity race here last year, I believe. Good overall speed, but was in that first group. I think he will improve upon that. So I think Allmendinger is in play. I probably like him more than Ricky, starting in 23rd. I apologize. Off the top of my head, I don't remember where everyone's at. He was in the second group, so I mean, that's not terrible for his price tag and where he's starting. I could see him hanging around the top 25, but not a lot of upside with it. Carson Hocevar starting in 15th. Finally not starting in 20th. And he's kind of cheap this week, right around $6,000. I think he can run pretty similar to where he starts, like most weeks. It's just a matter of if he doesn't get that penalty or not. So 15, 20 place car, $6,200. Hocevar's in play. Ryan Preece, we loved him last week and ended up excelling in the wet weather tires, starting in 22nd, though. I like him at these short flat tracks. I don't really see him having a lot of upside here, starting in 22nd. John Nemechek absolutely sucks. I know we got the good finish last week, but purely unlucky right there. I feel like looking for like a cheap PD play. I get it. Normally we'd play Justin Haley because of how good he has been this year. Like, Justin Haley has been downright elite, given the fact that he is in Rick Ware equipment. The only issue with Haley this week is that he has to drop to the rear and he also has to do a pass-through penalty. I'm sure he's going to get his lap back eventually, but it still makes it a little bit murky. So I would say if that wasn't the case, Justin Haley is the clear-cut play down low this weekend, but that definitely makes it tougher. So I could see Nemechek maybe being that guy. I am 100% not playing Austin Dillon starting at 11th. Don't really see myself playing LaJoy in 21st. Burton, no. Although, good finish last week. I'd say it's more luck-based. Now, Zane Smith starting in 36th. If we look at practice, 28th, 22nd, 17th, 13th. I feel like it's going to say he was in the first group, which he was. So, probably going to end up being very slow. Riley Herbst is going to be in this week. Looks like he's going to be slow as well. Hemrick is cheap, and he's definitely faster than Fincham. So the absolute bottom of the barrel pump play, I would say Daniel Hemrick is worthy of lineups just because you have to imagine there's going to be some DNFs, and as long as it's not him, it could inch his way around 30th, 25th, just depending if the race ends up getting weird. And Chad Fincham was just so awful. He's going to be going a lap down quite quickly, I would imagine, if you're looking at the overall practice laps. He's way off the pace. We're talking almost about a 33-second lap average, and up top we had Ty Gibbs at 30.5, so probably going to be a long and slow day for Fincham, and he should not be in your DFS lineup. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys this weekend, so I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. If you want to check out all the extra content, you're able to find it over on Patreon. Hopefully I'll see you all in the live stream tomorrow around 1 p.m. Eastern. Wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.